Earlier this month at CES 2022, Nvidia, AMD, and Intel, known as the Big Three, gave us a few breadcrumbs of information about their upcoming products for the new year, leaving us with more questions than answers. So today, I thought I'd take a stab at some predictions for a few of the new products that were announced. I'll specifically be focusing on Nvidia's announcements in this video, and if there's enough demand from you guys, I may make similar content pieces for Team Red and Team Blue shortly after. Bear in mind, the predictions I'll be making today are merely educated guesses based on what we currently know, and I may very well be way off with some or all of these forecasts. At the very least, it's always fun to speculate while we wait for the facts to roll in, and hopefully this video will spark some interesting discussion in the comments. But for now, let's talk Team Green and the two new desktop gaming GPUs they revealed at their CES keynote, starting with the RTX 3050. Before we continue, this video is brought to you by Keeps, the leading brand in hair loss prevention for men. Just like the next time you'll disappoint a girl in bed, 2/3 of the male population experiencing hair loss by age 35 isn't a matter of if, but when. Fortunately, Keeps offers the best solution for saving as much of your hair as possible. I can't help you with the other thing. Since your life is already embarrassing enough, Keeps lets you meet with a doctor online for utmost discretion, and you can have products delivered right to your doorstep since there are plenty of reasons to not leave the house. Keeps also offers generic versions of the only two FDA-approved hair loss products on the market, so they're safe, cheap, and actually effective. Since it can take up to 6 months to see results, now is the best time to start taking care of your thinning hair. Just go to keeps.com/bitwit or click the description link to receive 50% off your first order. Give your hair the chance steam machines never had, and try Keeps today. Now, before I share my expectations for this card, it's worth noting what we already know about it. For starters, the RTX 3050 will be available on January 27th of this year for an MSRP of $249 US, making it the lowest tier GPU in the RTX 30 series, trailing directly behind the RTX 3060. It'll feature 9 shader teraflops of performance, 18 ray tracing teraflops, 73 tensor teraflops, and 8 gigs of G6 memory. Nvidia's website also suggests a 550 watt power supply to drive systems featuring the new card. While it's not a whole lot of information to work with, there is a bit we can still infer about the RTX 3050 based on the new facts provided and a number of other factors. When it comes to the performance of this card, we can use its MSRP and where it falls in the product stack to make some likely predictions. As mentioned, the RTX 3050 is positioned just below the RTX 3060, which is about as fast as an RTX 2060 Super. My guess here is that the RTX 3050 will mimic the performance of a standard RTX 2060, or maybe even an RTX 2060 KO for some of the premium variants featuring aggressive factory overclocks from board partners. This poises the card for solid 1080p gaming over 60 FPS in most titles, and even 1440p gaming for less demanding games like esports titles, for instance. Based on specs and MSRP, the RTX 3050 should also outperform AMD's upcoming Radeon RX 6500, which was announced during AMD's CES keynote and sits $50 cheaper than the RTX 3050 at just $200. How much faster Nvidia's new card is over the RX 6500 remains to be seen, but considering the closeness in pricing at this tier, I suspect the RTX 3050 will be roughly 10 to 15% faster on average. On a side note, making this video made me realize that forecasting how GPUs rank performance-wise might actually be the only thing GPU MSRP is good for nowadays. Now, here's a fun one to talk about: availability. The availability of the RTX 3050 will more than likely be... I hate to say it, but this launch will probably mirror every other GPU launch we've seen in the last year and a half when the RTX 3080 launched in September of 2020, with bots and scalpers buying out stock literally the second the card goes on sale. I'd like to think there's a small chance availability will be slightly less than with the RTX 3090 Ti, since there's bound to be more allocation for a mid-range GPU than a flagship card, but since the RTX 3050 will be significantly cheaper, a lot more people will be trying to snatch one up. Not to mention, based on the price we can roughly expect the RTX 3090 Ti to sell for, which we'll talk about soon, crypto miners will be looking to buy 5 or 6 RTX 3050s for every RTX 3090 Ti. That's all to say, if you're aiming to get your hands on the RTX 3050, have your prayers to the PC gods ready as you wait in miserable lines at Micro Center or roll the dice on the Newegg Shuffle, which would be the perfect name for the world's saddest dance move. And then there's pricing. Nvidia confirmed the RTX 3050's MSRP at $249, but we all know the odds of buying one at that price are none to none. The RTX 3060, which had a proposed MSRP of $329, is currently selling in the range of $700 to $800. If this is anything to go by, I reckon the RTX 3050 won't be had for much less than $650. A 161% price hike over MSRP. Before the GPU market fell to absolute, a card like this would generate a fair amount of hype among budget gamers, but ongoing availability and pricing woes make this launch as celebratory as a root canal. But don't worry, it gets worse. Let's talk about the RTX 3090 Ti, Nvidia's biggest GPU flex yet. 40 shader teraflops, 78 ray tracing teraflops, and 24 gigs of G6X at 21 gigabits per second were the only specs revealed during Nvidia's keynote. Apart from that, all we know is that this will be Nvidia's fastest gaming GPU ever released, and although we know even less about this card than the RTX 3050, that leaves plenty of room for speculation. When estimating the performance of the RTX 3090 Ti, we can first look at how it stacks up to the RTX 3090. They both carry the same GA102 GPU and 24 gigs of G6X, but the Ti variant sports 11% more teraflops of power and slightly faster memory at 21 gigabits per second versus 19.5 gigabits per second on the 3090. The performance gaps between already launched GPUs also clue us into how much power the 3090 Ti might offer. The RTX 3090 is about 10% faster than the RTX 3080, with the RTX 3080 Ti falling midway between. Although the new card is just a Ti variant and not an RTX 3095 or something extra stupid like that, I still suspect we'll see about a 10% performance gain over the RTX 3090 on average. That should equate to a somewhat decent uptick in frame rates at 4K, potentially giving it the ability to push brutally demanding titles over that 60 FPS mark where the RTX 3090 may have fallen short of. In my opinion, anything less than a 10% gain with this card would likely cause even more backlash from gamers than GPU companies are already receiving. Not that Nvidia would give a and why would they? I mean, at this point, Nvidia could Sharpie a Ti on existing 3090s, and people would still leap at the chance to buy one for whatever absurd price it sells for. If the RTX 3090 Ti ends up kicking ass, it won't be because Nvidia wanted to impress gamers, because they don't need to do that anymore. It'll be to satisfy their investors and avoid embarrassment. Apart from their investors, if there's anything Nvidia is willing to protect at all costs, it's their ego. It's just a matter of time before GPUs start shipping with little leather jackets. And although I suppose maximizing performance just to save face is mutually beneficial to consumers, it also shows the increasingly detached relationship between GPU manufacturers and gamers, and that the decisions these companies make have very little to do with how gamers feel nowadays. Every GPU launch becomes a louder and louder reminder of this trend, and it's hard to imagine the RTX 3090 Ti's arrival will be much different. Another area for speculation around the new card is power consumption. An article from videocards.com claims that the 3090 Ti is rumored to have a staggering TDP of 450 watts. That's 100 watts more than the RTX 3090 and the highest TDP ever for any GPU. A leaked screenshot from Twitter user WXNod lends credence to the rumor, showing MSI's RTX 3090 Ti Supreme X to consume 480 watts with a recommended 1000 watt PSU. Any leaks should always be taken with a grain of salt, but if the screenshot is legitimate, plenty of users will probably need to upgrade their power supply in order to drive their 3090 Ti, adding additional cost to what's already sure to be an insanely expensive GPU. Not to mention, swapping out a power supply is one of the more tedious upgrades to perform. Anything in the name of higher frame rates, I suppose. While Nvidia offered no hint as to when their latest Halo product will launch, we can assume the RTX 3090 Ti will drop sometime after the RTX 3050 on January 27th, and before the arrival of the RTX 40 series, which is slated to release in the second half of 2022. If the RTX 40 series is launching as early as June of this year, the RTX 3090 Ti is likely to hit the market sometime between the months of February and May. I was initially convinced the card would launch sooner than later, giving it as much time in the limelight before the RTX 40 series steals the show, but recent reports point to an unexpected production halt related to the 3090 Ti's BIOS and hardware, which is a fairly vague and useless explanation. This recent setback makes it notably more difficult to tell when the new Halo product will drop, as there's no telling how serious its BIOS and hardware issues are and how long they'll take to fix. Before news broke of the rumored production delay, Nvidia promised to reveal more details about the 3090 Ti before the end of the month, but now it's unclear how much info they'll be divulging by then, or if the late January announcement is even still happening. Regardless of when the card finally arrives, availability of the RTX 3090 Ti will probably be abysmal anyway, which surprises no one at this point. The card's high demand and low supply will only be exacerbated by the fact that it's the fastest gaming GPU yet, meaning there's a higher chance that the McFlurry machine is working at McDonald's right now than your odds of copying this card once it's released. Now that you can't wait to never find this card, you're probably teeming with excitement over how much you can't afford to buy it for. The jury is still out on the 3090 Ti's MSRP, but given the RTX 3090's price tag of $1,500 and the Ti variant's Halo status, it's not hard to see Nvidia slapping a $2,000 MSRP on the RTX 3090 Ti. Of course, even if that estimate is right on the money, it still holds zero weight in determining how much the card will actually sell for. I mean, Nvidia might as well make the MSRP of the card $420.69, just to lean into the joke of it all. As of now, the RTX 3090 is selling for upwards of $3,000, or double its MSRP. At that rate, the RTX 3090 Ti will easily sell for $3,500 and up, with flagship board partner models possibly catapulting past the $4,000 mark, making the 3090 Ti the most expensive gaming GPU in history. While its ludicrous price hike over the 3090 won't translate to a huge leap in performance, there will still be no shortage of enthusiasts willing to pay top dollar for Nvidia's new gaming king. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong about most of the predictions made today, but looking back on the last year and a half, I won't be surprised at all if I'm not. At any rate, let me know whether you think my predictions check out here, or if I've completely missed the mark, and feel free to toss in some of your own foretellings down in the comments. Before you guys go, don't forget to like this one if you enjoyed it, get subscribed for more tech content on the way, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.